Hello children, welcome back. Today we will discuss the third and the last part of the chapter plants. In the previous section, we have discussed about the different parts of plant, their function like roots, stem, leaves, fruit and seed. Today we will discuss the topics like germination of seed, vegetative propagation and dispersal of seed. We'll discuss these topics one by one. Let's get started. We'll start with germination of seed. Now, what is germination of seed? We have already discussed the structure of seed. Okay, what does a seed contain? There is an outer thick covering which is known as the seed coat, and inside it the parts of the seed, these are called cotyledons. Then there is embryo or the baby plant. So these are the three parts of the seed. Now we'll discuss how from these three parts of a seed a new baby plant or a new plant is germinated. So the process goes on like this. Before we start the process, we also need to take care of a thing, that there are certain conditions which are required for the germination of seed. These are air, water and right temperature. Okay, now the process is as given. What happens? At first, a seed is sown in the soil and it is kept moist by regular watering. After some time, the seed will begin to swell and soften. Why or how the seed is swollen? Because there is a hole in the seed which allows the water to pass through it, and because of that water the seed the seed starts to swell. Now the seedling breaks the seed coat and it comes out of the seed. What was the seedling? The baby plant or the embryo. Then till the roots grows well, the seedling obtain its food from cotyledons, later from the soil. Now why it is saying that till the root grow well? Because the plant, it obtain its nutrients, water from the roots. So until or unless the roots are developed, from till that period of time, the cotyledons provide the food or the nourishment to the seedling. Then the seedling later develops into root and shoot, and finally it develops into leaves and branches and into a new plant. Now we can look at the diagram here. We have a seed, okay? Then the seed, we have discussed that there is a baby plant or embryo is there, you can see. Then the seed coat starts to burst, and then the roots, slowly the roots begin to develop. There is the cotyledon, you can see. What was the main function of cotyledon? To provide the nourishment to the growing plant. After some time, the leaves and the root and shoots, they will finally develop. So this is the germination of plant. Next is dispersal of seeds. Now what is dispersal of seeds? The seeds, they are obtained, you now very well know that how the seeds are produced. The seeds are produced inside the fruit. As the fruit ripens, it has the seeds inside it. Like you have a mango, there is a seed inside it. Okay. Now how these seeds, they are transported from one place to another, that phenomenon is called dispersal of seed. That is the process of scattering or spreading of seeds from one place to another, that is called dispersal of seeds. And there are various agents which help in this process, like there is wind, water, animals and explosion. Now we know that the characteristic of wind. So something which can float in wind, it needs to be light in weight. Okay. So the seeds which will be lighter and smaller, they will be able to be carried with the wind. The examples are dandelion. You can see you must have seen this plant of dandelion, or the cotton and maple. So the seeds of these particular plants, these are carried or dispersed by the wind. Next, water. There are certain fruits whose seeds are transported or dispersed with the help of water, like lily, coconut and lotus. You can see in the diagram the seed of coconut, you can see. So why why these are transported or dispersed by water? Because these trees or these plants are found near water. So their seeds will be carried away by water to far off places. Then third one is animals. There are animals and birds. We know that animals and birds, they are very fond of eating fruits. And what they do after eating fruits, they throw seeds here and there. So as soon as the seeds get buried under the soil, they grow into new plants. Example is mango, cherry and papaya. There is also another procedure. What happens when the animals eat fruit? So some seeds also come out from their droppings. Okay, and they fall on the ground. Like this happens in the case of guava and berries. And third, yet another category is there. Like some seeds they get struck to animal fur or their body, and then they are carried to another place. Like we can see here the example of a bird. It is eating the seeds of groundnut. So in this way, the dispersal of seeds takes place by animals. The fourth and the final category is explosion. Explosion means in this category, the plants or the fruits, they explode, they burst open and explode when they are dry. The common and the simplest example here is pea. Next is vegetative propagation. Now, before we start this topic, we must understand one concept. Like, there are two modes of reproduction of plants. One is the sexual mode of reproduction and another one is asexual mode of reproduction. Now, sexual mode of reproduction in which the flower part is responsible. Right, there is a male part in the flower and then there is a female part, which we have already discussed. The male part was known as stamen and the female part was known as carpel. And the process of pollination takes place. After that, what happens? The pollen, it fuses with the ovary and the seeds are produced. So one process is this. This is called sexual mode of reproduction. Another part is that in which the plant or the new plant, it grows from the vegetative parts. Now, why am I saying vegetative parts? Because these parts are responsible for the growth of the plants. They're not responsible for the reproduction. So if in some cases what happens, the new plant, it grows from the vegetative parts. So that is why the phenomenon is known as vegetative propagation. They multiply with the help of roots, stems, leaves and spores. So this is called vegetative propagation. Let's see how it happens. In the case of stem, you must have seen your parents or someone cutting the plant of rose. The common propagate, otherwise what would happen? We have seen like we need a plant with roots and then we had to bury it in soil and then a new plant comes. But in the case of stem rose, what happens? The new plants, they can be grown by cutting the stem of the plant and then planting it into moist soil. After some time, you'll see a new plant coming out of that. The stem of rose plant, money plant, it grows in this way. Then roots, the carrot, radish and sweet potato, these are the plants whose roots grow into new plants. Here you can see a structure of potato. You must have seen if a potato is kept for too long, you can see some structures coming out of it. Right? So if these are buried under the soil, if the potato is buried under such conditions, so it will develop into a new plant. Next, leaves. There are certain leaves like for the example bryophyllum. Now the bryophyllum, it grows into new plants by their leaves. You can see here the structure of bryophyllum plants. What happens? Tiny bud-like structures appear in the leaf. Now once the buds mature, they fall off from the plant and then they develop into new plant. That was all. Here's an assignment for you children. You have to prepare notes on the following topics: germination and vegetative propagation. That's all for the day. Thank you so much.